To drastic measures.
They're just talking about chemtrails on the news, y'all. Trying to trick us into thinking the climate's so bad that we have to do geoengineering stratospheric aerosol injection. But they won't tell you that they've been doing it for 30 plus years and calling us crazy for pointing it out. Okay? It's weather manipulation, weather control. No man or woman should have any power to control the weather whatsoever. That is messing with something that's beyond mankind, and you need Jah to be the sovereign over the weather.
It's not something that's theoretical.
And look, of course, NASA's involved directly.
Model in a lab. We actually flew through the clouds. We flew over pollution. We collected actual data. The main objective of what we're doing is so that we can collect this data in order to inform policymakers that are going to make changes that will help the planet.
Is it fair to say this is the largest flying laboratory in the world?
I believe it is, yeah.
This is NASA's DC-8 research vessel. With dozens of scientists on board, its flights over oceans and major cities will collect air samples that help reveal how our climate works and what we could do to protect it. In a rare opportunity, NASA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, have granted us the chance to accompany them on one of these flights. Is a research chemist at NOAA's Chemical Sciences Laboratory. He's the marine science lead on this flight. This flight is part of NOAA's efforts to study particles in our atmosphere, an area of research that's growing quickly as the White House weighs experimental technologies that could help cool the planet.
We're basically trying to just sample this region for about an hour or so we can observe the chemical evolution like we've seen. I know we've seen a wide range of aerosol particle sizes. Lots of different aerosol compositions. We've definitely seen a bunch of sulfate.
This effort to understand the impact of particles in our skies will help the U.S. federal government tackle both pollution and climate change.
What I can imagine is that we sort of refine the chemistry and microphysics associated with marine emissions and cloud formation, and then incorporate it into global models that are used to sort of predict global clouds and aerosols. Hopefully, we'll discover some relevant information that is useful for climate models.
Yeah, we're descending out of 1,600 feet.
The U.S. is one of several nations investing research into the use of particles in our atmosphere for something called solar geoengineering. So what is it exactly?
There it is, guys.
One way this could be done would be to put aerosols in the upper atmosphere. These are fine.
We asked Professor David Keith, a leading expert who hopes to advance the science
Needs to be
around
locked up.
technology.
David Keith needs to be locked
Solar
up.
geoengineering is the idea that humans might deliberately alter the Earth's radiative balance between sunlight that comes in and infrared heat that radiates outward. That balance that creates the climate. They might deliberately do that to cool the planet and to reduce, say, extreme storms.
Keith and other researchers believe this could be done by making clouds or oceans more reflective of the sun's rays. But the method that gets the most attention is called stratospheric aerosol injection.
That's a part of the atmosphere maybe twice as high as a regular aircraft flies, where particles last for a couple of years. You could put those particles there where they were just scattered a little bit, maybe 1% of sunlight back to space. That's the thing we study by far the most, the thing that we're most confident in some crude way would work. Some really big volcanoes are able to put a lot of sulfuric acid into the stratosphere, where it then forms really fine particles that will reflect away some sunlight and cool the planet. And in some cases, this can be quite dramatic. It can cool the planet a lot. This happens maybe a couple times a century in a way that we could measure.
This could be just the beginning, according to the experts, but everyone who witnessed the eruption of Mount Pinatubo say they've seen enough.
In 1991, this volcanic eruption in the Philippines sent enough particles into the atmosphere to actually cool the Earth's temperature by about 0.5 degrees Celsius, which is a big deal when considering the globe's climate goals. The idea of doing this at a global scale, distributing aerosols by plane, will cost billions of dollars. But experts, including David Keith, say it could end up saving much more money, and more importantly, us humans.
This technology could be used to save a lot of lives.
So with the onslaught of wildfires and heat waves, why hasn't the world already embraced solar geoengineering? There's one big issue. The technology is still untested at a large scale. And even as advocates encourage much more research before we start pumping sunblock into the atmosphere. And while it could help heal our climate, it also opens the door to rogue experiments, international conflict, and concern over the side effects of an unprecedented worldwide experiment. Just ahead on In Real Life, we see the dire stakes in cross-border controversy around solar geoengineering.
I do think that we need to know what could happen.
They've already been doing it for 30 years.
You heard a screech outside at night.
It's not
Well, you
good
can't
for
see
the
what it
Earth
is
or
because there's
mankind.
not enough light. You need the
We'll just call that good, y'all. That's just proof positive.